A senior engineer does not just ask whether the diagram works. They ask how it fails, scales, costs, and evolves. When I think about architecture review, I start with the real job, reviewing a teammate's architecture diagram before the team commits to building or approving it. Before we pick components, be clear about the workload. This design has to handle requirements, data flow, ownership, bottlenecks, dependencies, failure points, security, observability, deployment, scaling, and missing pieces, not just a clean demo request. The first diagram usually looks fine because it only tells the happy path story. For this topic, that naive version is usually a diagram that connects the main components, but leaves out ownership, failure paths, deployment reality, and missing operational details. I still start simple on purpose. The smallest version that can work here is a diagram that connects the main components, but leaves out ownership, failure paths, deployment reality, and missing operational details. That gives the team a baseline before complexity earns its place. Next, I walk one normal request or event through the simple design. That is where the useful questions start, because the path reveals what each component actually owns. The problem is not that the simple version is wrong. The problem is that it ignores what production will demand next. Teams accept diagrams that look complete until implementation reveals the missing parts. The first production pressure usually shows up here. Teams accept diagrams that look complete until implementation reveals the missing parts. That is the moment when a pleasant diagram turns into an engineering decision. Then operations gets involved. If the design cannot be observed, rolled out, and recovered safely, the system is already too expensive to own. In this topic, that pain looks like security, observability, and deployment concerns are often omitted because nobody asked about them explicitly. And then comes the part junior diagrams almost always skip. A good-looking architecture still creates risk if cost, scaling, and change management were never challenged. That is where production-grade thinking separates itself from feature demo thinking. So the better design adds only what solves a real problem. For this topic, that better shape is a review lens that checks what the system must do, where the data moves, what fails first, who owns changes, and what is still not shown. This is what you gain from the stronger design. A senior review catches missing assumptions before they become expensive implementation mistakes. Those gains are why the extra complexity is sometimes worth it. But there is always a bill to pay. The cost of the stronger design is it can feel slower because the review forces uncomfortable questions instead of rewarding diagram polish alone. That trade-off is the real system design conversation. Now I challenge the design with a failure question. Ask what this diagram hides. Missing data ownership, weak failure handling, unsafe deployment steps, or costs nobody modeled. If the diagram cannot answer that honestly, it is not ready. So the final architecture story is simple. Walk from weak diagram to reviewed diagram while showing the questions a lead engineer asks about requirements, flow, failure, security, observability, and evolution. That is the version I would be comfortable defending in a serious review. If you remember one thing, make it this. Viewers learn how to critique architecture like a lead engineer. Good system design is a judgment loop, not a memorized answer key.